We're live and we're 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Isn't that a song? Because 2 out of 3 ain't bad. All right. Stevo, welcome.
I'm live. Are you guys live?
All right. So the wisdom people have hung with us through the mess, and now we have started. It's actually 11:31 a.m. I scheduled for p.m. Kristen was in a different time zone. Stevo was off doing something that Stevo does. We can't talk about that online, but we're here now. We are here now, and
Daddy.
So welcome everybody to the inside story, the backstory, the story behind the story of modern day alchemists.
Yes.
Bum, bum.
You should have played that on the piano.
Oh, I should have. It's episode number 30. That's pretty awesome. And before we get into today's topic, and we're not even sure what that is, but we'll get into it soon. Let's introduce our awesome co-host, Kristen Brown. Let people know who you are, where you're broadcasting from. What are you all about, sister?
Oh, my name is Kristen Brown. I'm a spiritual and empowerment author, life coach, and mentor, and I am hailing from North Phoenix, Arizona.
Is it snowing?
I wish. It's been so warm. Doesn't even feel like Christmas.
That's right. So you're only dreaming of a white Christmas. Is that
I've
right?
been dreaming of one for quite some time. We did have one time.
You did?
Yep.
Oh,
I remember leaving the mall one day and it started snowing on my windshield, and I was like, oh my gosh, it doesn't stick here, but it has snowed.
wow.
Yeah,
There you
pretty
go.
cool.
There's a great right there. Kristen, before we move from you, you do have to show off your book for those that need some last minute Christmas ideas or New Year's ideas or just ideas to be ideas.
The Recovering People Pleaser, Spiritual Guide to Reclaim Your True Worth and Attract the Love You Deserve. This is for anybody who has recognized that they're a people pleaser or has a suspicion that they might be. And this is how you heal yourself on the inside so that you are naturally and organically stop your people-pleasing behaviors.
So if you are a people pleaser and you recognize it, or you are a people pleaser and you don't recognize it, or you see the people pleasing in other people, please get the book. It's going to be good for you. And
Buy it anyway, because I guarantee you're going to relate to something.
Exactly right. Some really good stories in there from Kristen's life and the lessons that she's learned along the way. Stevo Hays, please introduce yourself to the crowd who has not met you yet.
I am Steve Hays. I'm a happypreneur, and I'm here to navigate, activate, and advocate your happy life. I'm coming all the way from Happy Life Studios out in the great Northwest in Seattle area.
Right
and super jazzed about today's episode.
And Steve, do you have snow where you are?
Do not have any snow. No, it actually is getting warm too. It's been cold and rainy the other day, so we thought that it was going to snow, but it's weird out here in the Northwest when the clouds are out. The clouds keep it's hard to explain, but the clouds keep the heat in from the lakes and everything, right?
Inversion.
So when it's raining, it never snows because it's warm, and then once the clouds go away, it gets cold enough to snow. But then there you have it.
And it rains again.
Yeah, we have a white Christmas, maybe, I don't know, once every few years or so, I'd say, and it's a great time, and we have one out here. How often do you guys get one in northern? Probably never in northern Phoenix, huh, Kristen?
Oh,
I know, Joe, you never get one.
No, it's right. It's not even white. It just comes down white and doesn't stay white. But can we do a mic test on me? Is my mic okay now?
Yeah, your
Sounds
mic
good.
is pretty hot.
Yep, it's working.
It's pretty.
Is it too hot, Steve?
It sounds hot from my side.
What's a hot mean? I mean, I know it means
loud.
hot.
Mean
If
loud.
you can bring the gain down just a little.
No, just push it back a little bit. I think it was when you were leaning forward.
If you stick it under one armpit and use it like a roll-on.
Yeah,
How about now?
That seems
that
to be
sounds
better.
great.
Yeah.
Is that okay now?
Now your camera's out of focus though, so do your hand thing. There we go.
Oh my word! This episode, for those of you that are just joining us, it has been.
For those of you that are on Wisdom, you might want to jump over to YouTube Live on one of our 3 channels because you want to see this.
It is a show.
Kristen Brown, or what's yours, Joe and Steve?
At MoJOE McCarthy. Stevo's, what's your handle on YouTube, Stevo?
On YouTube, it's Stevo Hays.
Stevo Hays.
Okay.
Right?
Stevo Hays. Yeah.
All right. So I am Joseph MoJOE McCarthy, and the hostess with the mostess. Sitting at a baby grand piano right now. You can see the reflection for those of you that are watching on video. This is a mirror, and I am Shiva, celebrating Christmas with all my extra arms today. But I thought for today it'd be really fun since we're moving right into the holidays, just a few days away now. Kristen asked if we had our shopping done, and Steve and I are like, shopping? Are we supposed to do that? Groceries? What are you talking about? Kristen's got it all done because she just bought her book and passed it on to everybody, and I thought that's the easiest way to shop for Christmas. But Christmas obviously has the connotation and the association of gift giving and gift receiving. And one of the things that I love about Christmas is the nostalgia and remembering some yesteryears, both the fun and the foibles, and the gifts that either you've given or received that kind of stick out. Because there's a lot of gifts that come and go, and you barely remember them the next day. But there are always a gift or two that makes an impact, that sticks in your memory for one reason or another, for better or for worse. And so I thought it'd be fun first to start by traveling back into the memory lane and bringing it into present. And talk about a gift that you either received or gave at Christmas time, or it could be another time that really had an impact on you, either because it was hilarious, because it was meaningful, or because of the impact it had on somebody else. So anybody got a story you want to share before I share mine?
I could share mine. It's really simple and easy. It's the one that stands out the most. I remember when I was a little girl, I couldn't tell you, I think it was third grade, and I asked for a red fur jacket and white go-go boots.
Ooh.
And I got them.
Ooh. Sixth grade?
Excuse me, you guys. It was probably about third grade.
Third grade. Wow.
Yeah, kind of zip up.
And they
have like that kind of plasticky vinyl on the outside, and eventually when they get old, it starts to chip off.
Right.
I was hot. Third grade, rocking it. Short hair. My mom buzzed my hair off. What's that?
Have you asked for that again?
I did this year. Thigh highs this time, though.
So why was that so? Why was that even cross your mind? A third grader? Was there a role model? Was there a video you saw? A person, a celebrity?
I have no idea. I don't remember. I think it was just a sign of the times.
That was the thing back then. I remember that.
Yep. Yeah, it was just early 70s. So yeah.
Do you have any photos?
That was my favorite gift too. When I got the go-go boots and the red fur jacket, that was my favorite Christmas too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I want to see that photo as well.
But that was just last year.
Right.
I don't know if this one counts or not, but it's one of my most memorable ones. It's one that I gave.
Okay.
But I don't, like I said, I don't know if it counts because I gave it 2 days after Christmas. Because my wife would be expecting it during Christmas. And so I can't let her get something that she's expecting. Christmas is about surprises, right?
You're so smart.
And it's when I asked her to marry me. And in case she was expecting it, I can't do the typical Christmas thing. So I waited a couple days after, and I had taken the ring, and I had placed it on the tree on a branch way back against the trunk, so you couldn't see it. And then I made a video with I was youth pastor at the time, so I had a youth group, and I had my entire youth group. I had this old school drum machine. This was in the late 80s, 90s, whatever. And I had this drum machine, and I got this beat going, and I opened the back doors of this large sanctuary. I come walking towards the stage where the camera's facing me, and I'm singing, I got sunshine on a cloudy day. I finish the song. And when I get to, I guess you'll say, what can make me feel this way? And then one of my students pops up from behind the pew, and he goes, my girl. Another kid pops up over here and goes, my girl. Another kid pops over here, my girl. And I sing, talking about my girl. And then the whole youth ministry pops up and says, my girl. Ooh, ooh. And they all started dancing. We're singing along. And then at the end, and they loved her because she was a part of the whole thing too. And I got down on one knee and I said, babe, don't forget to check the tree, and would you be my girl? Well, she thought maybe this is it, but then when I said would you be my girl, I didn't say my wife. She didn't think anything of it. The funny part about it is that so we're all sitting down for a movie, and I know what's going to go on. I think my dad knows, but nobody else knows. And it's 2 days after Christmas, and my wife is dinking around in the kitchen with her. We're at my parents' house and down in Florida, and she's dinking around with one of her presents, a coffee machine or something, and she's trying to figure it all out and work. I said, babe, come watch the movie. She goes, just go ahead and start it without me. And I'm like, babe, you need to come watch the movie. No, just start. It was one of those things where no, I don't want to watch the movie. I said, babe, just come and watch the movie, So then at the very end, when I got down, would you be my girl? She just sat there, and it's kind of mean because I did it at my house. In retrospect, I probably shouldn't have done it at my family. She didn't know my family very well, but it was still memorable. And I sat and looked at her like, well, are you gonna check the tree? And all of a sudden she gets this look on her face, this cool look, and she goes and looks at the tree, and all of a sudden she sees a shiny thing way up against the trunk, and I was standing there, and she turned around. The poor thing, when she turned around, my whole family was like around the corner looking around the whatever. But yeah, that was one of my most memorable gifts right there when I asked my wife.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you capture that on video?
No, we didn't, because we didn't have phones and all that stuff
Back then. Come on, Joe.
Yeah,
How about you, Joe? What's your favorite?
Just put on your shoulder, right? It looked like
one of those great big huge monsters, like boombox looking things.
Just make you look like you're from the local TV station. Hey, welcome to our local family Christmas. Yes, I have back when I was out of college, not married or dating yet, I was living with a family, and they had some kids. So I was like honorary godfather, and for this one Christmas, I was given a bicycle to the girl who was probably at the time 6 or 7. And so we couldn't really wrap it and put it under the trees. We had it hidden in the closet, and came wheeling it out. And she's so excited. Oh, I got a bike. So we took it outside. She gets on the bike and she rides down the sidewalk right into the cars that were parked on the curb. It's all over. And now she's crying and screaming and got scabs and blood. Like, oh yeah, best laid plans of mice and men just blew up right in all of our faces. Merry Christmas. Thank you, Uncle Joe. The reason I asked that question is that there's a lot of talk about living in the present, and I understand why that's so important. But I think one of the things we can do to enhance the present moment is to bring the great memories of the past into the present. I think that's why we're given the gift of memory, not so that we can live in regret and remorse and shame and blame and all the stuff in the past that actually can drag us down, but to live both in the generosity and the gratitude for things that have happened to us or things that we've given away. And so I just wanted to throw out into this discussion how important it is that we don't leave the past in the past, other than the things that are dragging us down, the anchors, but that we bring the gifts of the past into the present and relive them through storytelling, through memories, through shared experiences. And Christmas is a great reminder of that. We all have our nostalgia, our memories of when we were little. And as I was getting ready for this talk, I was remembering when we used to get the Sears catalog, and some of the people who are tuning in won't remember this because now there isn't even a Sears, which blows my mind.
Or catalog,
right? But we get this really thick catalog that had 10,000 pages. And for weeks leading up to Christmas, we just go through it page by page and circle with the big marker, Joe, Dan, Viv, we put the little markers in there and the arrows. This is the one we want. And then we'd have to rank them 1 through 10 so that our parents would know which ones we get. And I can feel it even now as I'm talking about it, all that joy and anticipation of going through the catalog. And then all of a sudden you get to the lingerie and you're like, wait, I shouldn't be here. And you feel guilty and right? all those crazy things. Oh, just the joys of Christmases past.
The joys of the 70s.
Yeah, the joys of the 1970s. Yeah, you guys got any fun nostalgic memories when you were a kid, that the things that have kind of disappeared or have gone away in the current Christmases that you miss from the old days?
Man, my parents were pastors, and their church was around, 200, something like that. But the amazing thing about that is they would host a Christmas party for the entire church every year at our house. And my mom would make every single cookie. There was no thing like wholesale clubs. There was no Costco, Sam's Club. She didn't buy cookies from anywhere. She made them all. They lived on a very tight budget. And she'd start in June or July making cookies, which was good for me. I wasn't supposed to go in and get any, but, but anyway, they were all handmade cookies, and everyone would come over from the church. And it was, that's one thing that I really, really remember about Christmases is my parents always doing that.
That's good. Kristen, any memories from your childhood that make you bring back nostalgic memories of being?
Well, there was 5 of us. So we were in a 70s style ranch house.
And, the living room was this long and kind of thin room. And you got to think with 5 kids and a mother who just loved Christmas, it was a sea of wrapping paper. I was, little, so I'd get lost in it. It'd be like up to my eyes, like trying to, wade through the wrapping paper.
Yeah.
So that was one of the best memories, but also because, all my brothers and their wives and their kids, and then all the extra family members and friends that would come. We had these massive Christmas Eves to the point that we literally had to have chafing dishes to keep the food hot because, it was just too much production that was happening. And again, Christmas at her house too, because as you all know that I lived with my mom for 5 years, the kids and I did. And, the boys would come down from Flagstaff and all their kids. And so it was, again, the sea of wrapping paper and just, the family, the camaraderie, the love.
Yeah.
Just good stuff. Yeah.
For
Christmas
sure.
always been a positive memory for me, thankfully.
Yeah. So as I've mentioned in some conversations, I grew up many years of my childhood was in a trailer house, trailer park, pretty simple, not a lot of money going around, but my mom always made a big deal of Christmas. And we had the fun, it didn't seem necessarily fun at the time, but where we would create these strings of popcorn and cranberries and we'd sew them together with a needle and thread and make garlands for the Christmas tree, right? With actual popcorn and cranberries. And I can't tell you how many times I poked myself right in the finger. And sometimes it started out fun and then it was work. And then like, can we be done now? And then my mom would, while we're doing that, my mom would be baking the dough that you could paint on. And once it got hard, you could paint on it and stick a hook in it and make do your own painted ornaments. And of course we'd bite into them and they taste like salt and like, these are the grossest cookies ever. Probably like the ones Stevo's mom made that she made in July and served in December because, that many months later, they couldn't have been that great. But I just want the people who tune in today to give yourself the permission, right? Even though the hurry and flurry and hustle bustle of Christmas can be overwhelming and can actually get people down. Unfortunately, I'm already hearing people online and friends of mine saying, I just can't wait till it's over. And I knew it was coming. Happens every year. Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming. Like, oh, Christmas is coming, right? And it just becomes a chore. It becomes an obligation rather than an invitation. So I think there's great value in allowing yourself to go back and relive some of those fun, crazy moments, those nostalgic moments from Christmases past, right? So you think of the Christmas Carol with Charles Dickens, and when he went and got visited by the ghost of Christmas past, that wasn't necessarily a good thing. But when in the Christmas, what was the one, It's a Wonderful Life, when George Bailey gets to see what the past was like, right? When he was a kid, suddenly he's remembering all the good things that happened along the way. And that's really our choice. It's what are we going to focus on? You're going to focus on what you didn't get, how things went bad, and there's plenty of that to think about, both from Christmases past and present. But if we allow ourselves and be intentional about remembering the goodness, the blessings, the fun, the crazy, the insanity of it all, and be able to bring that joy from the past into the present, sometimes it can rejuvenate us, right, in the midst of the hustle and bustle of this year.
I agree 100%. You went right where I was thinking too when you mentioned the past, because oftentimes when people look at the past, they're filled with regret, right? They're filled with shame or whatever, but that doesn't mean we have to look at the past in that manner. And Christmas is one of the few times, I think, when people, for the most part, look at the past, but it's warm and it's welcoming. And I know there's a lot of people out there that struggle, that have had some bad things happen over the holidays, but I like that mentality of the past and the present and the future. They're all linked. You don't want to live in the past. You want to visit it, right? You don't want to live in the future. You want to look forward to it. You got to live in the present. You got to live in the now. And living in the past, that's not healthy, right? But visiting it is, especially if it's linked to the present. And how does it say, those that don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Well, what about if we look at, what if we repeat a lot of the warm, when we look back in fond memories, I think it keeps those memories fond in the present, as well. And it's kind of funny for me because my memory, I just don't have the best memory. And I'm trying to think of all these Christmas stories. And I can't tell you all the presents and gifts, but they're memories that I can't specifically state what the specific memory is, but the warmth I get over Christmas, it's just, is that making sense what I'm saying there as far as?
Definitely. This is making me think of a memory though. It's really cute. I think you guys will appreciate it.
This is great.
So, my eldest daughter, she's 29 now, but she was probably 3 or 4, maybe even 5. I'm not sure. She was pretty old, but her father dressed up as Santa Claus. And, you know, he's a dark brune, you know, dark hair with brown eyes. But he had all his Santa stuff on. And, you know, he didn't look like himself, obviously, but he came to the party and he sat down and we put her on his lap and she wrung her hands the whole time. She was so scared. And I just remember looking at her going, gosh, she has no idea she is on the safest lap she could possibly be on. And she doesn't know it.
Yeah. Right.
What a great illustration too, right? The whole concept of, you know, we're in a safer place than we think we are. And we tend to worry about a lot of things. We get anxious, but really we're in good hands. Life isn't always as scary as fear, false evidence appearing real, right? That acronym that people use. What you feared come upon you. Well, it wouldn't have came upon you if you didn't fear it, right? But I can just think of many times in my life where that illustration fits in really well. I think that I'm in a really bad, scary place. And that's been happening to me a lot recently. But I've been, what's the word I'm looking for? But my eyes have been open lately to realize that I'm in much better. Oh, I'm glad, man. Oh, that just hit me right now. Kristen.
Yeah.
That just hit me with something that's going on in my life right now. And it's just a confirmation to me that, it isn't as bad as I think it is. It's not as bad as we think it is. That's a good illustration.
That's awesome.
Really good. I love when it touches hearts. And I think that's kind of the point of what we're doing right now is as we bring memories back up, and even Kristen, the memory that Kristen just had just came up in this conversation and it touches Steve in the moment. This is my hope is that we'll embrace the idea that memories are gifts, right? We did receive a gift or gave a gift in the past and that had a value to it. But being able to bring it back into the present allows us to experience the love, the joy, the safety, the peace, the craziness. Once again, memories are given to us as a gift. And yes, certainly we can let memories be a problem if we're always concentrating on what went wrong and the drama and the trauma and the shame and the blame. We talk about that a lot, but those aren't the only memories we have. Just like in the present, there's myriads, infinite number of possibilities happening right now, and you create the world that you pay attention to. So take some time during the holidays to go back and relive and remember, right? Remember, integrate back into your current life some of the great moments and memories that were gifts at the time because they can be a gift to you right now. So one of my all-time favorite Christmas stories, and this predates the movie A Christmas Story, and we all know the story of the BB gun. You're going to shoot your eye out. So I too wanted a BB gun, and I hadn't seen the movie yet. I wanted the daisy with the blue steel and the simulated Woodstock on the end, and it was a single shot. And I got it for Christmas, but it came with very strict instructions. You never have it loaded in the house. You never point it at anybody. If you ever shoot anybody, it's going to be broken over your head and then be put in the trash, and you'll never have one again. And I knew the rules. I knew that they're very clear. And sure enough, just a few days after I get my dream gift, my dad's out of town, my mom's across the street at the neighbors, and I have this brilliant idea. I'm 7 years old, maybe 8. And I say to my little brother, 2 years younger, "Hey, Dan, do you want to see how powerful my BB gun is?" He says, "How?" I said, what if you put on all your winter clothes? You know, we lived in Montana, so we had very heavy clothes. Put on your thermals, put on your sweater, then put on your jacket, and then stand on the other end of the bathroom. I'll shoot you in the back, and you can tell me if you can feel it. Dan, 2 years younger, he's like, "Okay." So he gets all bundled up, and he looks like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. He's standing maybe 10 feet away, maybe less. And I've got this BB gun, and I'm looking down the sights, and in my little 8-year-old brain, I'm like,
no.
he's never going to feel this, right? This won't be fun. So I aim lower and lower until it's right below the cutoff of his jacket, and there's his rear end, uncovered. Boom! I shoot him in the butt, and he screams, "Joe! Ah, you did that on purpose! You're going to die!" And he runs past me, pushing me out of the way, out of the house, and now he's running across the yard towards the neighbor where my mom is, right? You're going to die. You did it on purpose. Tears streaming down his face. He's screaming. So I'm chasing after him. Dan, I'm sorry. I'm a bad aim. The sights were off. I didn't mean to. He's like, you did too. You did that on purpose. And so finally, in a moment of pure inspiration, I said, Dan, you can shoot me. And he stops immediately. Tears are no more tears, no more screaming. He turns around, big grin on his face. He goes, okay. And as we march back into the house, he says, but you have to be in your underwear.
Oh my word.
And I said, okay. And he shoots me in the butt. And I took one for the team, but I didn't lose my BB gun. And it makes for one.
Did it penetrate the skin?
No, it didn't penetrate the skin. It left a nice little welt. It wasn't a very strong BB gun. It wasn't the kind you could pump up to make it really powerful.
Not like my buddies. My buddy had the one that you could pump up.
Oh yeah.
And we were out there shooting his dad's duck decoys. Not good, right? And we're shooting them. Sure. And I go out to move one of them, and he told me not to go move it. I'm like, no, I got to go move it. I'm going to go. He told me not to. So he says, I'm warning you, don't do it. I'm like, whatever. What are you going to do? Shoot me? And he did. He did. He hit me in the elbow, and it went in. And Kristen, it went in. So it did penetrate. The funny thing is, it stayed in there, and it was on my funny bone. So I didn't know whether I should laugh or cry. I'm like,
oh, how awful.
How old were you?
I was probably 12 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have the gift that keeps on giving. That is, you guys will love this. So I have a brother that's 15 months older than me, just 15 months. We're called Irish twins. And he was laying down on his stomach watching TV one day, and I wanted attention. So I went in there, and I had this big, long Snoopy nightgown, and I'd go in and I'd put it over his head, and he'd get mad, get it off of me, and I'd do it again, and he'd get it off of me. And so he was drawing at the time, and he wasn't giving me attention. So I went down really, really low, and I got in his face, and he stabbed me in the head with a pencil. So I still have the graphite in my head. Now, this is the best part of all of this. Yeah, I can feel it right now. The best part of all of this is how many years later, my brother that I did that to me says, no, that wasn't in front of the TV. That was at the kitchen table. And my mother says, oh, no, it wasn't Charlie at all. It was a kid at school. So this is how the memories can, okay, my trauma, I think I remember the details.
Yeah. Right. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't tell you how many stories my wife and I will tell now. We've been married for 25 years, and she will tell it from a completely different perspective than I will. And like, we were sitting right beside each other, but we have completely different memories. She's like, no, here's who we were with. And I said, no, we weren't. And we were at that stadium. No, this was a different game. And this is what happened. And she swears that what she remembers is what happened, and I swear, of course, the same. And we just laugh about, well, probably neither one of us are even close to right. But I got to tell you, one of the funnest things about the holidays for me, when I get to be with my family, with my siblings, I have an older sister, 5 years older, a brother 2 years younger. He's the one I shot in the butt with the BB gun. And then years later, 14 years later, my dad was remarried and has another son, Scott, my half brother. And when we do have the opportunity to get together, whether it's over Christmas or in the summertime, the best part about that is sitting around telling stories of our childhood, right? Yeah. And we all have different versions of it, but that makes it even funnier. And even the stories change from one year to the next. And we're just laughing at each other, but we're laughing about the silliness and just the humanity of growing up with siblings. And we're not remembering how perfect everything was when we were kids, right? Yeah. We're remembering how silly, how funny, how goofy, the things that we did that we never should have did. How did we survive those things, right? We grew up in a time when we weren't protected as like we are with all the helicopter parents of the current generation. So we're out riding bikes in the dark and jumping into the big ditch from a tree. And the stories go on and on and on. And we laugh about the joy of living, right? So joy to the world. That's the song of the season. Joy to the world, which I got to tell you, when I was little, I thought the song was Joey to the world. So that was my all-time favorite Christmas song, Joy to the World. They're singing about me, right? That's just a silly memory from my childhood. But I just want to repeat this theme for today. Is one of the many themes is that our memories can take us to dark places where we can relive trauma. And I want to encourage you all, and I'm encouraging myself, and anytime I'm talking to me as much as anybody, that my memory is only goes to where I tell it to go, where I let it go, right?
Wow.
So I have the opportunity to go to super dark places and get depressed about what has happened and I wish things had been different, or I can go back to the places that were fun and hilarious and silly and goofy and relive and bring the gift of that memory right back into the present. Sometimes when I'm just on my own, sitting on the toilet, laughing at myself, or sometimes when I'm surrounded by siblings and relatives and we're remembering our own version. Okay, Kristen, thank you so much for being here. We'll miss you. Kristen has another appointment and she can't read the clock, so we'll forgive her of that.
Says the person who is scheduled this for 11:30 at night.
That's right. Guilty as
PM.
charged. Right.
I saw something the other day in the Hallmark store, in the window of the Hallmark store as you're walking past it. And it really lines up with what you were just talking about right there. I love this topic of we have the choice of what we're going to pull up from our past. And I would say, side note is oftentimes the best memories, the best stories now were the worst memory or the worst things that happen. I mean, were the bad things that happened back then. And I'm not talking about traumatic things right now. Right. Please understand. Right. But I saw something in the window and I'm actually thinking about doing a podcast on it. I thought it said joy to the world, but it caught my eye and I stopped. I looked at it and it said joy to your world. And it's one thing to say deck the halls, but it's nothing to say to deck your halls, right? Like the jingle.
No, you deck your halls.
Yeah, I'll deck your halls, bub. Right? Let's go. Jingle all the way. But the whole joy to the world makes it very general. Yeah, joy to the world, but joy to my world, joy to your world. And that comes from which memories we choose that we're going to, and like I said, for me, I don't even have a lot of memories that I remember, but I can choose to look back at the past as being negative, or I can choose to look back at the past as I survived that.
Yeah.
It's funny. It was great. But I think there's a difference between joy to the world and joy to your world. Now there's responsibility upon me. When I say joy to the world, I can be like, yeah, that's for Joey, you go spread your Joey to the world, right? Kristen, she can go, everyone needs to do their things to the world. And it's just very generic and general. But when it's joy to your world, then you have to realize, wait a minute, what am I doing? And Kristen said in our last episode last week, she talked about, people say, well, they're boring. Well, you're the one that's boring, not, if that person is boring, it's because you're boring, right? Well, if there's not joy to my world, maybe that's on me, right? I can blame the media for no joy in the world. I can blame all the motivators, or I can blame all the politicians, or I can blame all the pastors, or I can blame all the leaders, or all the colleges, or I can blame all sorts of people when it comes to joy to the world. The world isn't joyful because these people aren't doing their job, right? But when it's joy to your world, that's another story. Now it's on me. Now it's on me. And I think a big answer to that, Joe, is what you've been saying this whole episode has just been, focus on the warm memories. Visit them. Don't live in them, but visit them. Bring them back up. And if you got ugly memories, then stop thinking about those ugly memories. And it's when you go, I'm not going to think about that. Well, don't think about a pink elephant right now. Well, that's what everyone's going to think about, right?
Right.
Instead of saying, I'm not going to think about that, choose something else I am going to think about. Even if it has to be, that's why Christmas movies are so great, because we're living through them, right? We get warmth through that family we're watching on the Christmas movie might not even be like my family, but the warm feeling of it, so there's all sorts of things out there that we can look on or look back on that are positive to bring joy to our world instead of just joy to the world. And the funny part is when I bring joy to my world, then joy to the world increases.
That's right. Yeah. In fact, you made a really good point here, Stevo, and let me capitalize on that, is that it's so tempting to use this universal perspective, peace on earth, goodwill to all, right? Peace on earth, goodwill. That sounds like a grandiose idea for everyone, everywhere, but it's so vague that it doesn't have an impact in me personally. And in fact, even recently in my recent podcast, I talked about how, so the angels proclaimed at Jesus' birth, peace on earth, goodwill to all. And yet even right after Jesus is born, he and his parents have to flee from their own country and become refugees in Egypt because there's an edict out saying that all the babies 2 years old and younger are going to be slaughtered. Right. So how does that work? Just peace on earth, this grandiose, beautiful, everything for everybody. And yet in the reality of their experience, it's stress. It's run for your life.
Yeah.
Or your child is in danger. It doesn't get much more stressful than that, right? For a parent to think that their baby might die. And I know a lot of people have to go through that kind of stress when their child is sick, or when they face a disease, or when they get hit by a car. Bad things happen. So how do we justify, right? How do we justify these grandiose, lovely songs? It's the most wonderful time of the year, peace on earth, goodwill to men. And when there's wars in our world right now. People are at war. People are losing their homes or losing their family. How do we live with that? How do we justify that, right? And the only thought that came to me that made any sense of it is that when the angels were proclaiming peace on earth, they weren't just talking about this blanket wonderful statement for all people, everywhere, although they were actually speaking specifically of the Prince of Peace is now on earth, right? The God of everything, who can restore everything to the way it was created to be, is now actually on earth. The peace is the child. The child is on earth. And so I think, at least the way I'm interpreting it now, is that I can understand the stress that Mary and Joseph were under, both on their journey to Bethlehem, having to give birth without the hospital, without the doctors, without the nurses, without their family. They weren't even home for Christmas, as we like to say.
Right.
And then because they're afraid, they have to flee. So if somehow, some way, the angels of heaven are proclaiming peace on earth in the midst of the chaos, then there's a message here for us, right? What's the message? The message is that the peace is a person. The peace is that the God of the universe cares so much about us that he became one of us and lived through what we experience all the time. And that's the crazy chaos that is life on earth. So that means peace is available to us, but it's got to come from the inside out. It doesn't come from the outside in, right?
So true. So good. I had a church ask me to do a video for them for this Sunday. So I just put it together, and as I was thinking about it, I came across something that just kind of blew my mind. When the angel said peace on earth, when the angel spoke to Mary, it said, greetings, you are highly favored, right? But he talked about, the angel talked about, it will be good news of great joy,
right,
for all men.
Yeah.
But when that was given to all the people that were in the Christmas story, you got the wise men, you got the shepherds, you got Mary, you got Joseph, right?
Camels, sheep, donkeys.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Which also adds to it. Here you are, baby, in the midst of cow slobber and
and
majesty in the midst of the mundane, as holiness in the midst of manure, as Max Lucado would say.
Yeah, right.
But the wise men were excited. They were giddy, right? Joseph was stressed. He's got a woman that he's not married to yet that's given birth, and now he's got to go on the back of it. His wife's got to go on the back of a donkey 10 days to 2 weeks over rough, 9 months pregnant, over rough terrain. And what can he do about it? Nothing. He's stressed about the census, right? And then you got the shepherds were terrified. A host of angels shows up to tell them they're terrified, right? And Mary, it says that she was shaken by this. So you got giddy, terrified, shaken, stressed, because of the same message, which is good news of great joy, which to us, we see it because for us, it's a memory.
Exactly.
Because it already happened.
Yes.
For them, when they were in the middle of it, it wasn't so peaceful, right? But I love your analogy there, where not even an analogy, it's the real deal, where no, the angel is saying, no, peace is now on earth. He came from heaven. Now he's on earth in the form of a baby. Just let that thing grow up. Whatever you're going through, let peace grow.
Yes.
Let peace grow in you. Let joy grow in you.
Yeah. So good. So I love what you're saying here, is that oftentimes the present moment can be so overwhelming and it feels like it will last forever. It feels like we'll never get out of this. It's never going to get any better. This sucks. I mean, the worst case scenario, I wish I was never born. That's the George Bailey story of It's a Wonderful Life, right? But as we look back, right, hindsight is only 2020. We can't connect the dots going into the future. We can only connect the dots looking in the rearview mirror, and we see the story, right? The peace, the joy, the love, the hope that has been unfolding and growing the entire time through our lives. And for anybody who's listening, I can tell you without even knowing your story that you have survived every single thing that has come your way. It doesn't matter how bad it got, how terrifying it was, how stressful it was. You are here, right? You have made it. You have survived. You are victorious in the best sense of the word. You are much stronger than you imagine. You are more resilient than you understand. You have more grit, more power than you give yourself credit for. You look back in the memories, even if you happen to go to the dark side of the past, even those things can tell you, look how far you've come, right? The scars of our journey are just a roadmap that says, look what you've done. Look how far you've come. You have survived. You have learned something. In fact, one of my favorite books that I have read in the last year and a half is called Anti-Fragile. It's by an author called, his name is Nassim Nicholas Taleb. And then the book is Anti-Fragile. And he makes this case looking out throughout history and science. And he's an intellectual. It's a really interesting read. And he makes a case that says that we as humans, we think that we're fragile, that if things get shaken up too much, if we're too stressed, if we push too hard, if we get pushed too hard, that we're fragile, we're going to break. He says, but history tells us, even our own past tells us that no matter how bad things get, we're not only just able to survive it, we can actually be stronger on the other side. We can learn and grow and thrive, right? He says, so we're not just like fragile is something that would shatter under pressure. If you just make it, then you didn't get crushed by the pressure, then you just survived. He says, but history of mankind says, not only are you not fragile or just resilient, you're actually anti-fragile, which means you're stronger, you're better than you were before all the stress happened. And I mean, I have to remind myself of this all the time, because even this morning, as we're preparing for this podcast, and the time's changing, I get the times wrong, and I'm fumbling with all the equipment, and I've dropped it, and the gravity's against me, and I just feel like, is the whole world conspiring against me? And it's a struggle, right? Sometimes life is such a struggle, and I had to laugh at myself. One, because one of the things that you and I have talked about with Kristen is that don't take things personally. And I was taking it personally. The whole world is against me. Gravity is not on my side. I can't get the keys out of my pocket. I'm carrying too much. I mean, my arms hurt. My legs hurt. I got arthritis, on and on. I'm thinking of how the world's against me, and I'm taking it all personally. It's just life. Life is what it is. And I realized that without struggle, we don't climb. When we're on our way somewhere, it requires us to work at it. But it's actually in working at it that we can look back. Here's the gift of the past again, the gift of our memories, to say, exactly, I didn't think I was ever going to make that. I didn't think I could do that. If you'd have told me how much it was going to cost to be a parent, how much little sleep I'd get, how much stressful it would be, or all the rigors of being married, I never would have done it, because I thought, I can't do that. You got to be high. And yet I look back and like, not only have I done it, but I'm still in it. I've survived. I've thrived. You are, whoever's listening, you are anti-fragile.
Yeah, you think about all the reports that come out and say, if you have a teenager, by the time your child grows to adulthood, you have spent this many millions on them. And you're like, so if you were to look at that, you'd say, I can't have kids. I can't afford kids. 2, 3 kids. Are you kidding me? I can't do that. And yet somehow we do. Yet somehow we have. Yet somehow we make it happen. And I'm going to go back to the thing that I said earlier. I've never used this quote before, but I'm going to go back to it again today, which is those that don't know history are bound to repeat it. Well, let's flip that a little bit, because you like to wordsmith. So let's flip that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Those that know history don't have to repeat it. Maybe that I process out loud, so I'm thinking it for the first time now as
Yeah.
I'm saying it. The point I'm trying to make is I'm trying to tag on the point that you're making here. One of the points that you're making here is that if you look at your past from the present and you say, wow, look what I did. I got through that. You know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I was really sitting on Dad's lap, not Santa Claus, right?
Yeah.
A Christian story.
Right.
What we have to do with that then is now we have to look at the future, be in the future and look back on our present and know, like you said, this will not last forever. In a year, in a month, in a day, in a week, in 5 years, we're going to look back on this moment right now that we're stressed out and now that we're wringing our hands in and go, you know what? I survived it. I made it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah.
And when we get ourselves worked up over something, we end up living, like you said, we end up living in that reality. We tend to, I don't remember how you always word it kind of like we make that becomes our reality at that point, you know? And I just want to say to you that are listening or watching that you are going to make it through this situation. If it's difficult, you're going to make it through this situation. If it's enjoyed, if it's a great, then be in that moment and enjoy it. But you're going to get through this as well. Focus on the warm memories that also are happening as well. And even in the negativity, one day you look back on it, it was like, that was tough, but I've got this warm feeling when I look back on that.
Yeah. You know, I've watched quite a bit of Tony Robbins in the past, and oftentimes in his live seminars, he will call someone out of the audience who's willing to participate, and they will share how awful someone treated them in the past. I'm thinking of one girl in particular whose father or stepfather was just a jerk and never treated her well and made her feel bad about herself, and on the story goes. And you could feel the angst and the tears in her eyes. And Tony, in his way that only Tony Robbins can do, and he understands human nature so well and has gone through his own stuff, he started asking her questions about, so as a result of the mistreatment that you received from your father or stepfather, what has been the result? And she started with the negative things, and he says, yes, okay, that's true. What else? And then she started realizing, well, I'm stronger and I make my own decisions, and I don't have to report to him. And I have, against everything he said, I've got my degree, and now I've got a good job, and I've got a happy marriage. And she started talking, and Tony said, in a way only he could say, he said, so in a way, did he do you a favor? Because look at all the things you've done as a result of the way you were mistreated. And I'm not wording this exactly right, but I think what I take from this is that when I look back at my past, even when I do start getting focused on the negative things that have happened and the way I was victimized and that kind of stuff, I still can, if I am willing, I can say, in essence, that was a gift, because it changed the trajectory of my life, where I have found a sense of ability and responsibility and strength and courage that I didn't know was there, and I may not have ever found. Who knows? But all that to say, not only is the past and all the great things that we remember a present for today, even the negative things that have happened to us can be a gift if we allow that to propel us forward, if we allow the manure to become fertilizer. Yes, that's easy to say and hard to do. I get it. I've lived it. I understand. But everything that has happened in our past, right? All the ghosts of Christmas past have brought us to this present moment. If you take away any of the ghosts of Christmas past, you're on a different trajectory and you're not in this present moment. So the gifts of the past and the ghosts of the past have brought us to the present. And then we often, as you said, we can often get off into the future worrying about what might happen. Well, what if, as Stevo said, what if we get ourselves into the future and say, okay, the future actually is hope. It's the ability to look back into the present and say, hey, things aren't the way they should be or the way I want them or ideal right now, but that doesn't mean they can't get better.
Wow.
Right? What if the things that I'm going through right now are for my benefit, and I'm in good hands, as you said, and I am growing towards a better future? That's the gift of hope. That's one of the four tenets of Advent, right? So when I think of Scrooge and he gets visited by the ghost of Christmas past and the ghost of Christmas future, and it changes his outlook completely about the present, these are gifts. the past and the future are opportunities for us to look at it a little different way and bring it into the present to give us courage and to give us hope and to bring peace to this moment that says, yes, the world is chaotic, but that doesn't mean I can't find value in the life that I've been given.
I love that whole, the future is hope, because in the future, we're going to look back at our moment right now, or we're going to look back at the moments that are not necessarily good. And we're going to say, I made it through that. I'm still here. Right. Or we're going to look back on the moments that were really good. It's hope. And what happens is when, like, that person that Tony Robbins was interviewing, I know what happened. I've seen the videos of him. I've heard the podcast with him, right? That person is now freed from that heavy, not freed from the things that happened to them. They're not freed from the memories of what happened to them. But once they say, wait a minute, something good came out of this, they release that person. They're 100 pounds lighter. They're just free, and when we look at it that way, go, okay, this sucks, but everyone struggles with something, there's hope. The future, you're going to look back. Well, you got a choice, right? But your future, if you start looking back at the past now in a positive way, then what you're doing is you're developing your muscle to, when you get in the future, you're going to look back on this moment and realize that you made it through and it's not as bad as you think. And so if you're going to realize that in the future, you might as well realize it right now. You're going to be okay. You're going to get through this. As ugly as scary as it is, there's always a good side of it to look on. And if we wait for, Kristen said this, I think was last time we met. She talked about, you have to be your own cheerleader. You have to be your own hero, right? Yeah. And if we wait to look at the media, or we wait for somebody to come along and tell us how great we are, or tell us it's going to be okay. Like right now, for instance, you are watching or listening to us talk positive and speak life into you. That's what I like to do. What I'm saying is, when I'm having a hard time believing this stuff, when I'm having a hard time being positive, I put on the movies, my go-tos, right? My Christmas go-to movies that are about, I love the Coopers, Family Stone, Family Man, a lot, Christmas Vacation, Christmas Story, where the families are wounded, the families are broken, but these every time I sit there and it gets to me, right? And what we have to do sometimes, we have to prime the pump. We have to listen to somebody else sing the song. It's just so weird how I can feel down, and then I put music on, and it isn't just the beat, but sometimes it's the lyrics that you say, and I go, and I shake myself like, what am I doing? It's going to be okay. Yeah, you heard that. My buddy I just spoke to the other day said he was watching a football, or it was basketball. He was watching his team play the basketball, and they were down by like 18 points. And he said, and normally he doesn't watch a game unless he knows they win, right? But this time he didn't know, and they came out and they pulled it off. And he says, I don't know, it's so weird. I know it's dumb. I know it's the NBA. He says, but I just felt so much better. Like, you know what? He said, I just knew they were victorious. I can be victorious too. And I love how he takes something as simple as a sporting event that he was watching, and he can flip it to, wait a minute, I can win. I'm going to win. And I think that's what this perspective does for us.
Yeah. I think of Home Alone, the original one. Kevin's that gets left behind by his parents who fly overseas or wherever, and he's got these adults that have really bad intentions, going to take over the house and going to rob him. And Kevin's a little kid, right? But instead of just cowering in the cupboard, he takes matters in his own hands. Right. And the movie unfolds. It's hilarious to see all the contraptions that he makes, where he makes a mockery of these thieves. And of course, in the end, it all ends well. But I think that's the same point, is that as we go through our lives, it's so important to see the big picture. We get so myopic at times. We get so caught up in the present moment that we fail to see how far we've come. And we fail to see that in the big picture, right? In the big picture, it ends well. That's what hope says. Hope says that in the end, it's going to end well. And I think of Steve Jobs. He had this amazing commencement speech that he did at Stanford, and he had already been diagnosed with terminal cancer. And he said, and I'm just going to misquote him here a little bit, but he said that death is the single greatest invention of life, because if you can keep in perspective your own mortality, it puts everything in this present moment in perspective. You realize all the things that you're striving after and want to accumulate, and you think you're going to make your life meaningful, are worthless when you understand the preciousness of your life and how short it actually is. So here's a different way to look at the ghosts of Christmas past and the ghosts of Christmas present. The ghosts of Christmas past are presents to remind us of how far we've come. And the ghost of the Christmas future is a reminder that life is short, and the moments that we have, we can make them matter. If we so choose, we can make the moments matter by keeping in mind what's really important is the fact that life doesn't last on this earth. Life on this earth doesn't last forever, and something better is planned. And that's what I believe, and that's what the Bible teaches, right? And so if I can keep that in this present moment, the past and the future become presents in my present, right? It depends on how we look at them. It's a matter of perspective, as we talk about all the time. So I think what Stevo and I are trying to offer to anybody who's tuned in, either live or after the fact, is that rather than letting the past drag you down or the future keep you afraid, right? Because oftentimes what the past can do is make you depressed, and the future can make you anxious. It can, but it doesn't have to. If we can change our perspective and realize the past is a present because it got me to where I am, and the future, there's even a scripture in for those of you who like scriptures, it says that the days ahead are going to be better than the days behind. Now, that can be misinterpreted as thinking that every day is a linear progression and each day is one step better than the day back. No, this is a big picture. This is zooming out and seeing your life, right? This is the gift of seeing your life from the bird's eye view, to say each moment is a gift. It's a gift of life, of breath. And you can make something out of it, right? If you so choose, because the best, the best gift of all is the gift of being able to choose whether I will consider life a gift or I won't. And that changes everything.
Yeah. I've been really into Christmas Carol this year. I got the audio book from the library. So I listened to the original. That's like 150 years old. That book is like 18 something. It's like 150 years old. Right. And I also watched The Man Who Invented, Christmas, which was a movie about Charles Dickens, who wrote the Christmas Carol. And it shows his woundedness. It shows his, like, in a lot of ways, he was kind of like Scrooge, honestly. And the thing I was shocked about is, back then in the day to do a Christmas book and then do it with ghosts, I mean, spirits, that was way out of the box. That was very edgy, right? And you're expecting it to be a scary story. In a lot of ways, it really is a scary story. But the thing that I was shocked about in listening to the book, listening to the guy read the book, was I expected, and I've always, even in seeing some of the movies, the Ghost of Christmas Past is a mean ghost. But when I heard it in the original book, the Ghost of the Christmas Past wasn't a jerk. He was trying to show something to get him to change for his future. It was a ghost of hope, right? The ghost of Christmas Present was a jovial, fun. Now, he had his moments when he said, when he got, Scrooge's attention. But we often look at the past as some dark, menacing, scary. The Ghost of Christmas Future was the only one that was like that, right? That the Grim Reaper or whatever. But the Ghost of Christmas Past was very friendly, was firm but friendly, because it was all about changing Scrooge, and so was the Ghost of Christmas Present. So they were firm. They loved difficult in some way, like tough love, so to speak. But the past isn't some spirit, some ghost, some demon, something that wants to. I mean, if that's your past, if that's your spirit of Christmas past or spirit of past period, you need to get another spirit, right? Because there's other ones out there that are full of hope, that want to go, wait a minute, aren't you strong? That's what Tony Robbins, and I'll finish, I'll give it back to you in a second here with this. Tony Robbins, when he's talking to that individual, they're looking at the past as the Ghost of Christmas, as a terrible monster. And Tony Robbins became the new spirit of their past, because he said, but wait a minute, what did this do for you? And I think that's what the past is really trying to do. The past is really trying to say, wait a minute, hold on. You made it through. You're going to make it through this. What did you learn from it? The past isn't some monster trying to destroy us. I don't know. Maybe there is a monster out there that's trying to do that. We have to allow that to happen. But there is a past out there that's gentle, that's loving, that is full of hope, that wants to show us, wait a minute, there is hope for your present and there's hope for your future.
It's good. So we just got about a minute here, maybe less. And, we've covered a lot of ground here. And I just want to encourage anybody who's tuned in to go back in your past and reread the story. So Steve just talked about this book that was written long time ago, and he's heard it. He's read it before. He's seen the movies, and he went and read it again. But this time he saw something different. He felt something different. He interpreted it differently. And boy, that just reminds me again that we all have that power. We all have that ability. And so I would encourage everybody, go back and reread your own story, but put a different spin on it, a different tone. You don't have to change what's true. You don't have to make it a different story, but you can certainly put a different perspective on it and a different tone and realize, you know what? It wasn't there to shame me. It was there to teach me, right? It wasn't a threat. It was a teacher. Oftentimes businesses have the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I say, change the T to teachers: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and teachers. So go back, when you go back over the past, celebrate the joys of those great moments. And on the down moments, ask yourself, what did I learn? How did I grow? Maybe the tone that I put in the story the first time around, or the 10th time around, or the 100th time around, isn't the only tone I can give it. And I can give the ghost of Christmas past a completely different tone, right? And realize it was a gift. It was a gift for my present. It's made me who I am. And when I look to the future, I can see the Grim Reaper, but maybe the Grim Reaper actually isn't a scary monster. It's just a reminder, hey, look how precious these moments are. And if you feel stuck, if you feel down, if you feel like life's against you, it's just a moment. It's going to move on. You're going to move on. Or as Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going, right? Because the only reason you're stuck if you don't move. So keep moving.
But I will say this, Joe, I'll interrupt you really quick. You're doing a mic drop right now, but it won't move on if we keep holding on to it.
Yeah. Right.
If we don't let it go, if we don't change our perspective and we wonder why it's still there, well, because we're allowing it to still be there. That's where we got to grab those other spirits, the other perspective of it, because it doesn't have to stick around forever, and it won't as long as you let it go. But if you keep embracing that and you hold on to it tight, don't blame anybody else when the joy to your world is no longer joy to your world. It's, well said, Joe. Well said.
Yeah. So as we move, gosh, 3.5 days now before Christmas, I understand it won't be ideal. It won't be perfect. It won't be exactly what you had hoped for, but there will be moments, and there will be ways, if you so choose, to see the joy even in the imperfections and realize life isn't perfect. As Stevo loves to say at the end of every one of his podcasts, he says, life isn't perfect, but that doesn't mean it can't be happy. That's our ability to respond. Our responsibility, right, is to take ourselves out of the blame and the victimhood and say, how can I respond now to my past and to the future to make the present moment the best possible that it can be for me and for those that I love. So we wish you all of the joy and the hope and the love and the merry and the bright that Christmas can bring. And it's there. It's all around you. Just choose it rather than all the other things that you could choose. So Merry Christmas to you, my brother, and to you, Kristen, wherever you are. And we will talk after Christmas and have some more new great stories to tell. So blessings on everyone. Peace.
You guys are awesome. Merry Christmas.
God bless us.
On earth, goodwill.
Everyone. Amen.